Okay, well, it's 6 o'clock. I think we can go ahead and get started with the webinar. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Mel Burnett. I'm the city's homelessness and housing analyst. I'm just going to walk us through some housekeeping items tonight before we get started. So the webinar is being presented simultaneously in Spanish language interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish channel. So through Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the toolbar at the bottom. As a reminder to all of our panelists tonight, I'd ask that everyone speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your statements. Again, the webinar will be presented in Spanish. This Zoom webinar is also being recorded, and a copy of the video will be available on the city's website. The city will not be answering questions live tonight, but we will be answering ones that we have previously received from members of the public. And if you have any additional questions, you can submit those through the Q&A function on Zoom, which is also found at the bottom of the screen. We'll compile responses to these questions and include them in the FAQ page on the city's homelessness website. And you can also submit questions after this webinar to the endhomelessness@cityofsanrafael.org email link. And now I'll turn it over to Mayor Kate Colin for further welcome and introductions.
Thank you, Mel. Good evening. My name is Kate Colin, and I'm the mayor of San Rafael. And I'm glad that you're here live or watching the recording because it means you're taking the time to learn about the city's efforts to resolve local homeless encampments, and specifically the city and county's joint efforts to resolve the Mahone Creek Path area encampment. While the city held a similar webinar a couple weeks ago, we heard from the school and parents that having one specifically for the school community was important. Much of the information that will be presented tonight is similar to the previous webinar, but it includes some recent updates. We received many questions and concerns around encampments, and the goal of tonight's webinar is to provide answers. As I've publicly stated many times, unregulated campsites and encampments are terrible for the inhabitants, and the impact on the surrounding community is real. The solutions are multifaceted and interconnected, meaning that there isn't one solution, but rather a layered approach that's both compassionate, restores order, and is effective. The city cannot resolve encampments alone, and this layered approach requires the commitment of many partner agencies and organizations, including the County of Marin, who I know will be participating this evening, service providers, law enforcement, and you, our residents. So thanks for being here, and I invite you to continue to engage in the days and months ahead. Welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor Kate. And I think we'll also hand it off over to Principal Station from Davidson Middle School to make a couple opening remarks as well.
And hello, thank you so much, families, for being here or watching our recording. We're going to put this on our weekly bulletin so families can access it that way as well, but please share if you're watching it that it's available with other families. My goal today is to help make sure families know that the efforts we're taking as a school to ensure our children are safe and our school is safe while children come here and learn.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Mel, we can go to the next slide. So good evening, everyone. I'm John Stefanski. I'm one of our assistant city managers here at the city of San Rafael. And tonight we have a number of topics that we're going to be discussing. The first is we'll touch on some updates around a city and county collaboration and partnerships around homelessness, as well as an overview of the recently released 2024 point in time count. Then we'll have a discussion on the overview of county roles and responsibilities with regards to homelessness, as well as some information around some new city regulations around camping on public property. We'll also provide some updates around the sanctioned camping program, and we'll also talk about a homelessness solutions working group that the city is forming, in which the deadline to apply is tomorrow. And then we'll go into, as Mel noticed, as Mel shared, is the frequently asked questions that we received in advance of tonight's presentation. Let's go to the next slide. So, as Mayor Kate said, homelessness is a multifaceted challenge that requires a collaborative approach that involves the city, the county, and community-based social service providers. No single agency can solve this alone. And this is why the city and the county are working to develop a formal partnership that enhances the interagency cooperation to better address the needs of those experiencing homelessness in our community. And as you'll hear tonight, the city and the county jointly applied for and received $6 million in encampment resolution funding from the state and are joining us this evening for this community webinar. And that is just one example of the growing partnership with the city and the county. And so I'll hand it off over to my colleague, Gary.
Thank you. So again, my name is Gary Najaris. I'm the director for the Division of Homelessness and Coordinated Care with Health and Human Services at the County of Marin. I'm pleased to be presenting tonight along with our partners in San Rafael, and we're proud of the partnership that we've developed across many grants and programs to be able to address homeless locally within the city. A couple of examples of some city-county partnerships that have been successful over the past several years. One program is referred to as the High Utilization of City Services Program. This is 68 total clients that were enrolled in a program funded 50% by contributions from all of the municipalities across the county and matched by the County of Marin. The cities that participated in the program were allowed to define what a high utilizer meant in terms of impact on municipal services like fire, police, ambulance, hospital, emergency room admission, and other criteria. And cities directly identified the clients that they wanted enrolled in this program. So a great example of a partnership that was focused on helping cities to identify some of the biggest needs and to be able to get those addressed. Another example of our partnerships are around some state surplus funds that were obtained through State Senator Mike McGuire, who was able to obtain $500,000 for the cities of Novato, San Rafael, and Sausalito. Those funds were matched with an additional $500,000 from the county for a total of $1 million to each city. For things like improving conditions in encampments, cleanups, improving security and staffing services and direct supports to clients. And some of the funds have even been used to renovate housing units for homeless individuals. A third example, the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members has a community homeless fund. The subcommittee of mayors and council members determines the priorities around homelessness that resonate and are critical for cities. Cities contribute, all cities contribute to that fund as well, and it is matched 50% by the county as well. The service currently being provided under that fund are showers, laundry, and outreach under a provider in the communities of Fairfax, Novato, San Rafael, and in West Marin, specifically Bolinas. And then finally, the county has an open offer to municipalities who want to implement effective evidence-based strategies to address homelessness and reduce homelessness and the impact created locally. It's a 50-50 matching program where cities identify the strategies, provide 50% of the funding, and the county matches the other 50%. San Rafael has taken advantage of this option with the addition of a housing-based case manager. That caseload will then be filled specifically by clients from the city of San Rafael. Next slide. So a couple of results that from our point in time count across Marin County, our most recent point in time, which was conducted in January of 2024. And please note, the caveat to the point in time is that it literally is just 1 day's experience of homelessness every 2 years. So although it is a comprehensive assessment of every census tract across the entire county made by folks, volunteers and folks who are skilled at being able to find, locate, and accurately count the number of homeless individuals, it does really only represent 1 day. At this time, the report showed that there were a total of 1,090 individuals homeless in the county, which is an approximately 3% decrease from the count in 2022. That included 788 individuals living on the street or in cars, or other locations that do not meet the definition of housing. It also includes 217 what we call chronically homeless individuals. Those are individuals who have been homeless for more than a year and who have some type of identified disability. Within San Rafael, that's 326 individuals within the city boundaries, 264 who are unsheltered, and you'll see the sheltered count includes individuals who are sheltered at our county-funded facilities like Jonathan's Place, which happens to be located in San Rafael. This is a 6% decrease for the city from the 2022 count. Next slide. Among our priority populations that we work with, although we only saw an overall 3% reduction in homelessness, we're very proud of these more significant reductions in clients who are sometimes the most challenging and complex to serve, and I think represents success in our focus on these priority populations. A 24% reduction in individuals who are chronically homeless. And the good news there is that together with communities and with our community-based organization partners, Marin does such a good job jointly in housing these clients and making sure they stay housed and don't experience homelessness again. Our rate of retaining them in their housing unit is 94%. The national average it is in the low 70s. We saw a 12% reduction in homeless families, a 32% reduction in veteran homelessness, and with the new veteran housing building coming online under Homeward Bound in Novato, which has just opened and begun accepting clients, we expect to reach a functional end to veteran homelessness in Marin. We will be one of less than a handful of counties in California to have achieved that goal. And finally, we also saw a 12% reduction in youth homelessness. Next slide. How does our system work? I'll just briefly say we fund a full entire continuum of care. So anytime we identify a homeless individual, or if you know someone that you're concerned about and you think might not be connected to our system, individuals or people concerned about individuals can call 415-473-HOME or email us at hhshome@marincounty.gov to ensure folks get connected to our systems. We immediately work with clients at that point to get to know them, conduct a variety of assessments, understand their backgrounds, and make sure that they get enrolled into what's called coordinated entry and connected to any other health and human services and supports that the client might need. Our outreach teams continually engage, touch base, meet face-to-face weekly with clients out in the field. We have outreach teams geographically dedicated to Novato, San Rafael, Southern Marin, and Central and West Marin. Rapid rehousing is a service that provides temporary supports, things like security deposits, first and last month's rent, or even the first couple of months' rent, to help someone who has some type of regular income to be able to reclaim and move back into housing to help them get over that initial hump that they may not be able to afford, but could afford rent on their own afterwards. We've housed over 1,600 individuals since 2017 through this mechanism. We also have housing-focused shelter and transitional housing. These are temporary places that folks can stay, some structured as shelter, others as temporary housing, usually up to 2 years, to help folks make the transition into housing from the streets. And finally, we run permanent supportive housing programs. These are for chronically homeless individuals specifically, again, wanting to make sure that individuals who are living with a disability are able to have the services and supports they need on an ongoing basis to retain their housing. We've housed over 800 individuals through this mechanism since 2017. We know and want to acknowledge that although there's been significant progress in addressing homelessness in Marin, we know that the proof is in the pudding. We still see plenty of homelessness out on the streets. We know that you all see folks every day who are struggling on the street, and we know that our work is not done, but it's essential partnerships like the one we're talking about today with the city that make the most difference in being able to accelerate folks towards a permanent housing destination. Next slide. And then finally, we have what's called a coordinated care initiative. Overall, we want to make sure that clients that are eligible for any entitlement services and supports that are provided across the entirety of health and human services, public health, behavioral health and recovery services, or social services, the clients are connected as quickly as possible and stick with those services over time to help them move towards housing. Next slide. With our permanent supportive housing beds, we've seen an over 144% increase since 2016. There are currently over 553 individuals in what we call scattered site locations. These are just regular apartments in various places across all of our communities in Marin, and 266 in what we call single site locations, programs like you might be familiar with or have heard about in the news, like Home Key. Specifically under that program, 61 beds have opened already at the beginning of 2024 under Home Key efforts here in Marin, and another 64 beds are coming online right at the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025. And finally, we have a strong partnership with the Marin Housing Authority. Landlords all over the county volunteer to take clients into units, and we provide services and supports directly to landlords to support them as they are attempting to support clients in their housing journey as well. Next slide. So as I said, we've housed over 800 chronically homeless folks since 2017. That includes 116, additionally, that's 116 veterans and 234 families. We also run a robust shelter and transitional housing program, 239 shelter beds currently in Marin and 108 transitional housing beds. And we've served over 2,000 individuals in shelter since 2017. Next slide. And go ahead. I think I'm turning.
I think this is,
that, right?
yeah, fine.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
thank you, Gary. So kind of building on what Gary was talking about, the city and the county have had really great success working with our service providers. We've been able to successfully house over 380 individuals in San Rafael who are facing long-term homelessness. And we continue to collaborate with our service providers to connect individuals experiencing homelessness with case management to get them successfully housed. In recent years, the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund has invested more than $3 million for supportive housing developments such as the 3301 Kerner project as well as Jonathan's Place. The city is also funding the Specialized Assistance for Everyone, or SAFE team, a mobile mental health crisis response unit that's operated by Petaluma People Services, which addresses various crises and provides critical support and operates 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And just to note that in the last fiscal year, the SAFE team responded to just about 3,100 calls for service, with more than half of those calls responding to assist an individual experiencing homelessness. Go to the next slide. So, over the past year, the city has worked to address the public health and safety concerns related to encampments in the city. Going back now over a year, in October and November of 2023, the city enforced the fire code to abate the fire risks associated with the proliferation of wooden pallets and illegal wooden structures throughout the Mahone Creek area encampment. And then in December of 2023, the city manager issued an order prohibiting camping along Lindaro, and the city was able to clean up that area. And for most of the last 4 months, the city, I guess, yeah, last 4 months, the city has been pursuing enforcement efforts aimed at addressing more illegally constructed structures. To note that over the summer, the city had noticed and abated well over 50 structures and have cleaned up well over 31 tons of material and debris from those encampments. And I'll add that when we do this work, the city is intentional about providing individuals with new replacement tents, and we provide those folks with an option to store their personal property for up to 90 days. And so the next couple slides here show some of the before and after photos of the work that the city's done over the last year. So we go to the next slide. So this is Francisco Boulevard, before and after. We'll go to the next slide, Mel. Anderson Drive, before and after as well. Next slide. Yeah, Mahone Creek path before and after, and there's actually much more that we can report out on the Mahone Creek path here later. The site there has improved considerably. Next slide. So, in late August, the City Council adopted new camping on public property regulations, which are now in effect across the city. And under these regulations, camping is permitted on certain public properties so long as individuals comply with the campsite size maximums and setback requirements that are outlined in the ordinance. So now campsites cannot be larger than 200 square feet for one person or 400 square feet for up to four people. They have to be 10 feet from other campsites, public utility infrastructure, and private property lines. And they have to be 5 feet from roadway pavement and at least 250 feet from schools and 100 feet from playgrounds. And structures are expressly prohibited, and individuals cannot store any building materials on public property either. Go to the next slide. So in addition to those regulations, the city has expressly prohibited camping at a number of properties throughout the city, including Albert Park, Boyd Park, the Falkirk Cultural Center, a portion of Lindaro Street, as well as the southern portion of the Mahone Creek Path. Camping is also prohibited on open space properties, parking garages, public facilities, and public rights of way and sidewalks. Go to the next slide. So how will the city enforce these new camping regulations? So under the ordinance, if somebody is camping in a prohibited area, they will be required to remove their campsite immediately. If someone's campsite isn't in compliance with the size maximums and the setback requirements I just discussed, the city will work with them and give them 48 hours to come into compliance. But if there are exigent circumstances, then the city will take action to require them to remove their campsites immediately for public safety purposes. If somebody constructs an unpermitted structure, we'll give them 48 hours to take it down before the city sends out a crew to abate the structure ourselves. And so these are just the enforcement protocols that are outlined in the camping ordinance itself. And the city has many other avenues to address the public safety and health impacts that are often related to large and unregulated encampments as well. So moving forward, the city will have a regular cadence of enforcement for the camping ordinance. And If you have concerns about a given encampment or have questions about these regulations, you can email us at endhomelessness@cityofsanrafael.org, and a member of our team will get back to you. Over the past month, the city has worked to enforce the new camping ordinance, which has resulted in the closure of the encampment at Anderson, along Anderson between Rice and Irwin Streets, the cleanup of the encampment along Anderson going closer to Lindaro, as well as the closure of the encampment along the southern portion of the Mahone Creek path. And those are, I know improvements that we've had many folks from the community reach out to us noting the changes in the surrounding area since we've enforced this camping ordinance. But with that, I'll now pass this on to Mel Burnett, who is one of our key staff members who has been working tirelessly to stand up the now open sanctioned camping area. And so I'll hand it off to you, Mel.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so I wanted to speak to why we set up the sanctioned camping program. So like many counties, Marin County does face a shortage of shelter space and affordable housing, leading many individuals experiencing homelessness to camp on public property. The city of San Rafael saw success with a similar approach through the Service Support Area, or the SSA, and housing over 70% of the participants from the SSA. So building on that success and by identifying areas for improvement from that experience, the Sanctioned Camping Program does introduce new dedicated support resources and provides improved conditions for the unhoused individuals that are participating. This approach is expected to yield similar permanent housing placement outcomes. And additionally, the program aims to enhance stability and safety in the surrounding area during its temporary implementation, which is anticipated to run for 12 to 18 months. So the city of San Rafael and the county of Marin jointly applied for and were awarded nearly $6 million through the Encampment Resolution Funding Round 3, or ERF3 funds. And this was specifically to address the Mahone Creek Path area encampment. So the grant supports the sanctioned camping area development and operation, which connects encampment residents to case management, permanent housing, rapid rehousing subsidies, and supportive services to end homelessness. The County of Marin's Department of Health and Human Services will be contracting with 3 housing-based case managers, as well as 1 full-time outreach worker. And these staff will provide services to the identified grant-eligible individuals who are residing in this encampment area. So this slide shows an aerial schematic of how the sanctioned camping area would be set up. The location is on a portion of the Mahone Creek Path between Francisco Boulevard West and Lincoln Avenue. And this site plan actually shows an anticipated 47 expected tents, and our contractors were able to include 50 tents in the final setup of the camp right now. So some of the elements that are included, the sanctioned camping area is set up to serve as a low barrier, housing focused, safe sleeping site. The fencing was installed and increased to a height of 8 feet with gates on each end, 1 for participant entry, which is on the Francisco Boulevard side, and 1 for service entry, which is on the Lincoln side. There's 24/7 security personnel that are on site that are staffed at each of those gates, as well as walking through monitoring the site. And that's provided by Defense Block Security. FS Global is our contractor for the program management operations, and they'll also be providing janitorial services to within the camp. And additional regular services include portable restrooms that include ADA accessible units. Garbage pickup is provided 3 times a week by Marin Sanitary Service, and potable drinking water is also provided for the participants. And right now, weekly shower services are also being provided. These are some of the photos of the sanctioned camping area. So it shows some of the tents and the security guard shack and some of the portable restrooms that are set up. And I'd also like to introduce, we do have with us FS Global. So Caden and Max are on, and both of you can join and introduce yourselves and FS Global.
Yeah. Let's see if that works. Great. Hi there, I'm Max. I run operations for FS Global. We cleaned, built, and are operating on the Mahone Path right now. Things have been going really well. I'm really pleased with, since the 4th when we opened, all the progress we've made. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Caden, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name's Caden. I work with FS Global. I'm pleased with the progress we've made and the ability our staff has had to push forward and bring the residents to the level that they're at now. And I'll bring it back to Mel.
Thank you both. Yeah, and with us also is Defense Block Security. So I think Denise Little, the Director of Operations, if you'd like to introduce yourself and Defense Block as well.
Sure. Denise Little, Director of Operations for Defense Block Security. Just a little bit about us. We're a small, locally owned and operated security firm. We're focused on providing security to Northern California. We've been in the last about 5 years working and partnering with cities, counties, and municipalities and assisting them with the homelessness issue, where our role on this site is number one, to support FS Global in providing a safe environment so that participants feel safe so that they can then get the help and treatment that they need. And then we're also there to help enforce the code of conduct that all of the participants agree to live there. And then also make sure that there's sufficient access control. We monitor who comes in and out of the site. Like Mel said, we're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we have multiple security staff on site at all times.
Wonderful. Thank you, Denise. So I'd also like to address why the Sanctioned camp has been located along the Mahone Creek Path. Individuals have been experiencing homelessness and have been camping in this area in the recent years. When the city banned camping at Albert Park, members of that encampment did relocate to the Mahone Creek area, including a portion of Lindaro Street. In December of last year, the city banned camping along Lindaro Street, resulting in more individuals moving to the nearby Mahone Creek Path, as well as along Anderson Drive. In addition to individuals being already located in the Mahone Creek area encampment, the city is pursuing the sanctioned camping area along that portion of the path for some of these reasons as well that are noted. The ERF3 grant requires funds to be used for alternative shelter near the existing Mahone Creek Path encampment. Service providers have also recommended for the site to be walkable for access to services and food. Additionally, for the location to minimize disruption for those already camping in the area. And the city currently does have site selection constraints. So the city does not have suitable land right now elsewhere for this program. And after a year-long search for private property options that was unsuccessful, the goal is to provide more dedicated services to individuals on their path to permanent housing. As this will be a temporary program, an additional goal is to move people either into permanent housing or interim and transitional housing as those units become available. And with that as well, so phase 2 of the ERF3 grant is that the city will continue to explore the development of a new interim shelter project or tiny home village. As previously mentioned, through the city's recent year-long search, identifying a site has so far been unsuccessful and challenging. The city has inquired with over 20 private property owners and reviewed 5 city-owned parcels. However, the site selection process is continuing, and there will be future updates on this second phase coming in the spring of 2025. When a viable site is identified, the city will be working through a public process to ensure members of the public have an opportunity to provide feedback on that program as well. And now we'd also like to share and respond to some of the questions that were submitted recently from members of the public. I'll be reading the questions and then we'll address questions to both city and county staff. So I think the first one, John, if you'd like to respond to this, what happens to the people who are not in the sanctioned camping area?
So all individuals who are eligible for services through the ERF3 grant will receive rapid rehousing support, outreach, and housing-based case management services based on their needs and identified permanent housing destinations. Eligible individuals not participating in the sanctioned camp will continue to be outreached and offered these grant-funded services. As I mentioned earlier, individuals who are camping on the southern portion of the Mahone Path and on Anderson Drive between Irwin and Rice, who were either ineligible for or chose not to participate in the sanctioned camp, had to relocate from the area. And so that whole area has now been under the camping ordinance. We're regulating where folks can camp on those properties. What we will say, though, is that individuals who are homeless will continue to be referred into the countywide coordinated entry program, where they'll be assessed and matched with appropriate services, and outreach teams will continue to work with individuals in San Rafael no matter where they currently are camping.
Thank you. And what mechanism has the city set up to receive and address complaints from the public about the camp?
If you have a complaint or a concern around the sanctioned camping area, you can submit those on our website, as well as you can email us at endhomelessness@citysanrafael.org.
And what is the process for reporting incidents related to encampments, including illegal activities and disruptive behavior? And how might this information be acted upon?
So this is a question that we get a lot, and we worked with the police department on pulling together this answer. So if you witness any illegal activities or disruptive behavior, contact the SRPD non-emergency line at 415-485-3000. And again, if you have questions or concerns regarding compliance with the camping ordinance, you can email us at endhomelessness@citysanrafael.org. For our police department to address issues of illegal activity occurring in a business or other location, the person observing the illegal activity must call it in to report it. Although SRPD would always like to be everywhere, we are constrained by the number of officers that we're able to have in the field at any one time. As such, we rely on the community to partner with us to be our eyes and ears for incidents that occur outside SRPD's presence. In addition, I'll share that the city over the last year has been implementing mirrors or flock cameras and are using other systems during investigations to investigate crimes in a manner that would lead to successful prosecution. And we also have SRPD will direct officers to proactively patrol areas that are experiencing increased levels of crime to address specific issues as they rise. Hence, if you see something, call it in, report it, because we use that data to make informed, data-driven decisions on how we deploy San Rafael PD resources. And lastly, I'll share is that even with the sanctioned camping program now up and running, SRPD does conduct daily foot and vehicle patrols in the area, as well as along Anderson, and they have made multiple arrests and remain committed to a zero tolerance approach when it comes to criminal activity.
Thank you, John. Also, what is the city doing to address the encampments along Anderson Drive? I think you touched on that a bit. And then what will the city do to ensure encampments do not continue to grow?
So this is a function of our camping ordinance. And one of the things that our team is working on is developing a regular cadence for enforcement activities along Anderson. So we recognize that we have to be diligent and have to, as a city, continually go out and monitor the encampment along Anderson to make sure that the folks out there are staying in compliance with the camping ordinance. And so we'll be having regular touch points and enforcement and outreach efforts weekly, as well as anticipating doing weekly cleanups out there as needed, as well as elsewhere in the city, again, in an attempt to enforce the new camping ordinance.
Thank you. And these next two questions I'll direct to our colleague at the county, Gary Najaris. Gary, why are all resources being diverted to permanent supportive housing projects without expanding available shelter beds to get people off the street? It's one of the questions sent in.
Thank you. So actually the county routinely makes investments across our entire continuum of care, from outreach to housing focused shelter, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, and encampment focused strategies. Our ability to fund or provide new supports and resources at any of those areas is always dependent on a complex mix of federal, state, and other private foundation funds available for homelessness services and supports. So we do operate, as I had shared earlier in the slides, a robust shelter system with over 239 beds that and recently, in the past couple of years, have made expansions in helping to shelter additional individuals in West Marin, families, domestic violence victims, and youth.
Thank you for addressing that. And the next question that was sent in, can the city get more housing vouchers for homeless residents?
This is such a great question, because in a manner of speaking, yes. The Marin Housing Authority allows the county to refer 50 homeless individuals per year to the Section 8 waiting list. Normally, the county does that with an eye towards the entirety of the need across the county. However, with new funds like the Encampment Resolution Fund grant, we're able to refer individuals under those grant funding streams who are ready and eligible for Section 8 to that list. So to be eligible for a referral, individuals must first have a housing-based case manager, which the resources under this grant provide for that additional staffing. And then individuals must complete required Section 8 paperwork and meet all the eligibility criteria. So by receiving this ERF3 funding at Mahone Path, the individuals there will be assigned a case manager, and these might be individuals who might not have previously had access to that limited resource.
Thank you, Gary. So this next slide names some of the multiple ways to receive updates and be in touch with future programs and responses to homelessness in San Rafael. You can visit the city's dedicated webpage for the Sanctioned camp, as well as the homelessness webpage. You can follow the City of San Rafael on social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for real-time updates. We've also put out recently an interactive story map that explores details on the camp's progress and the overall homelessness response, which can be found on the main homelessness webpage at the very top. Also, our homelessness newsletter, you can sign up on the city's website to receive updates and developments directly to your email inbox. And city staff communication. So staying connected with city staff who are conducting regular outreach and collaborating with community partners such as Downtown Streets Team, St. Vincent de Paul, the CARE Team, and the Ritter Center. I'd also like to provide a reminder of our upcoming Homelessness Solutions Working Group. So this QR code will take you to the city's website for more information about this group. as well as the link shown on the page as well. So this is an opportunity to provide some input and ideas, as well as learn more about the city's homelessness response and potential new or expanded solutions. These meetings are going to be held on November 12th, January 14th, and March 11th. And the deadline for the interest form to be completed is tomorrow. And that can be found on the city's main website up at the top, or by going again to the QR code or the link on the page. Also, this slide provides contact information, some of which was previously mentioned, but we did want to revisit. So reporting any complaints or concerns with the camping ordinance can be emailed to the endhomelessness@cityofsanrafael.org webpage, or excuse me, email. Please report any suspected illegal activities to the San Rafael Police Department at their non-emergency phone number that's listed here on this page. And additionally, the San Rafael SAFE team, which stands for Specialized Assistance for Everyone, can be reached at this phone number shown, the 415-458-SAFE. So SAFE provides a mobile crisis response team in San Rafael, and an emergency dispatcher will answer and determine if SAFE needs to be dispatched. And with that, we greatly appreciate you all tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining us and for your support and engagement. This webinar recording and the PowerPoint slides will be posted to the city's website. Please feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions. And thank you all again for joining.